Now, the return of Donald Trump as US president is more than just a victory for a political figure. It's perhaps a reminder to America's European allies that the days of American protection on Europe's terms may just be over and no longer a certainty. As per reports, with Trump's return, Europe faces a choice. It either builds a solid defense of its own or risks being left vulnerable. Now, why are we saying this? Because back in his first term, Trump reportedly made it clear that NATO countries must spend over and above their 2% GDP towards defense and rely less on US military for aid. As per reports, for too long, many European nations have sidestepped these obligations, reportedly comfortable in the belief that US support was guaranteed. But Trump's win reportedly signals the end of those assumptions. And Europe's leaders are reportedly scrambling to prepare for a new partnership with the United States that may no longer be on their terms. As per reports, at the European Political Community Summit held in Hungary's capital Budapest on Thursday, over 50 European leaders reportedly gathered, openly discussing the need for a stronger, self-sufficient defense mechanism for Europe. As per reports, they spoke with cautious optimism about Trump's return, but knew that relying on Washington as before could no longer be the default strategy. And this is exactly what French President Emmanuel Macron said. Listen to this.
Donald Trump was elected by the American people, and he's going to defend the interest of the Americans. And that's legitimate, and that's a good thing. The question is, are we ready to defend the interests of Europeans?
As Macron just said, it's no longer about asking what America will do for Europe, but what Europe must now do for itself. Hungarian Prime Minister Viktor Orban had something similar to say. Listen to this.
There was an agreement that Europe should take greater responsibility for its own peace and security in the future, and even more directly, that we should not expect the Americans to protect us.
As per reports, Mark Rutte, the newly appointed NATO Secretary General, told European leaders that Europe needs to boost its military investments, quote unquote, regardless of who the American president is. You see this kind of rhetoric from European leaders, it's a striking shift and perhaps a signal that Trump's re-election is already having an impact in Europe. The truth may just be that Europe can no longer rely on the United States to bear the burden of NATO's security. As per reports, Trump's hard stance during his first presidency pushed some NATO countries to spend over the 2% GDP expenditure line. As per reports, currently 23 of NATO's 32 members have managed to meet the 2% threshold. According to experts, Trump has a clear view on this issue. NATO countries pay up or defend themselves, and Europe's concerns don't stop just there. As per reports, Trump's unpredictable policies, from tariffs to threats of NATO withdrawal, leave Europe vulnerable, not only economically but militarily. Furthermore, Trump's admiration for Russian President Vladimir Putin and his stance on Ukraine, like stating that Ukraine war does not serve any interests for Americans, have reportedly sparked fears about what his leadership might mean for European stability. And this, as per experts, has left European nations in a bind. Can they trust the United States to protect their interests, or must they now take a stand? Are they truly prepared for a leader whose policies may tilt dramatically towards isolation? As per reports, Charles Michel, the European Council president, said that Europe must become masters of their own destiny, not because of Trump alone, but for future generations. Now, what does all of this mean for Europe's future? As per reports, efforts are underway to quote-unquote Trump-proof support for Ukraine and broader European defense. For instance, NATO has recently taken over the Ukraine Contact Group, which coordinates assistance for Ukraine's defense. And NATO countries have reportedly pledged nearly $43 billion for Ukraine next year. A substantial commitment. But will it be enough? Especially if Trump pressures Europe to handle the Russia-Ukraine war without the United States. Moreover, European officials are reportedly bracing for a possible economic fallout. As per reports, Trump has already hinted at the potential for a trade war, and the EU is reportedly working towards a response plan. Reportedly, in anticipation of tariffs, they've prepared countermeasures, including reciprocal tariffs on US goods. But how sustainable is an economic standoff when Europe's security may depend on US support? Could the continent face a lose-lose scenario where economic resilience and military reliance collide? It's a question experts said should ideally lead to unity across Europe. But you see, unity is far from guaranteed. As per reports, domestic political weakness in both France and Germany add another layer of complexity. Experts said that if Europe's largest economies are struggling to maintain stability, then any cohesive, unified response could falter under pressure, adding that Europe needs to confront a question it has long tried to ignore. How do they handle a United States that might see Europe as more of a competitor than an ally? Without clear and immediate steps, Europe may find itself more divided than ever, precisely when it needs collective action the most. Then there's the unpredictability of Trump himself. Many analysts believe his return to power, especially with Republicans gaining a majority in Congress, could bolster him further. According to analysts, Trump might see NATO simply as a business client rather than a political ally. Europe's path forward is unclear. The continent risks being left out in the cold, especially at a time when self-reliance may be its only safeguard. For latest news, download the WION app and subscribe to our YouTube channel.